Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Michael Osman. Today we are going to cover proxy files. If you don't know what a proxy file is, I will explain that today, and I will explain why you should be using it when you're editing your 4K footage. We all know that we've edited 4K footage on a computer that really can't handle it, and the computer's crashing or just bogging down, going super slow when it renders, and all you want to do is break your computer. Well, with proxy files, we can solve that problem and not have any more issues. So let's dive in. So why do we use proxy files? Well, a 4K file is about 3 times larger than your standard 1080p file. So if you're shooting in 4K and editing in 4K, it's a lot more information that your computer is having to process. If you use a proxy file, what you're doing is you're taking that 4K file and you can reduce it down to 50% of the size, or even 25%, or I think you can go down to even 10%. So what that does is when you're watching it and playing it back, it's not going to be in the full, perfect, beautiful form. You're going to see it's kind of blurry and not super crisp. And that's just because you created a smaller file. So that way when you're playing it back while you're going through your edit, it's not going to look as good. But once you're done with the editing, you switch it back to your optimized or your 4K size. It renders out, and then your project is completely perfect and good to go. It makes editing so much faster, so much easier. I use it all the time. I have a good computer for editing. It's not like a crazy good one, basically the standard for what most people have. And I still use the proxies just because it goes way faster and it's just way easier, and I don't have to worry about my computer blowing up while I'm editing. Okay, now that we are in Final Cut Pro 10, which is the editing software that I use, I'm going to show you how to create a proxy file. First thing you're going to do is go up to Import. I already have an SD card inserted, so I'm just going to select a couple clips. You can also do this by just grabbing the footage from your computer as well, if you're just importing it into whatever editing software you're using. You have the option to put it in an existing event or create a new one. Down here, where it says Transcode on the right side here, this is where you're going to create your proxy file or your optimized media. So you can do no check on the optimized media or the proxy media, and it will just upload the original footage straight from your camera, which is perfectly fine. Optimized media, basically what it does is it's going to create a high quality copy for Final Cut Pro 10, which is going to make it run better in the software. So I usually go ahead and check the create optimized media, and then right down below that you have create proxy media. So now if you click on create proxy media, you can leave it in the ProRes proxy, which is what I do, just because I'm using it for Final Cut Pro 10, and ProRes is basically the files that they create for it to run at a better, more optimized file. Otherwise, H.264, which is what I'm shooting in anyway, you could do it in that as well. So then you have down here, you have frame size. So you can select 50, 25, or 12.5. So what this is going to do is it's going to take that 4K file, and instead of bringing in the full 100% file, which is 3 times bigger than the 1080p file, you're going to bring in half of it. So now we're bringing in only 50% in that proxy file. So you're making that file way smaller, so that way when you're editing, it doesn't have to edit as much when you're doing the edit in the proxy. So I usually just do 50%. That seems to be just fine for my computer. It doesn't have any issues lagging. You could go lower if you wanted to, but I feel like the 50% works just fine for me. So we're going to go ahead and import those. As you can see up here, this is where it's importing right here. Okay, so now that the media is imported, the next thing you're going to see here is this transcoding and analysis. So what it's doing is it is transcoding those files into a optimized file and a proxy file. So you're going to want to let that all transcode out. It takes a few minutes depending on how much you're dumping at one time, but once it's all done, then you don't have to worry about it, and then when you start your edit, you are good to go. So we'll go ahead and close that for now. So basically now what happens is when you have your file, your video and your playing it back and watching it, if you have it in optimized, which is going to be right here, optimized original, that's going to be the full-size file, the full-size 4K file. And what happens is while you're editing and you're trying to watch it and play it back, a lot of times it will like lag and glitch on you because it's trying to play those big files that you're doing a bunch of adjusting to. So you're taking that file and you're making it even bigger by doing all the adjustments to each clip. So if you change it down to proxy only, now it will only show the proxy clips. So it's going to show it in a lower quality form, but it's still going to be nice and clear. Like, it's not like it's crazy blurry or anything like that. But then when you're actually watching those clips back, it's going to run perfectly smooth. You don't have any glitches, so you know everything is right where it needs to be if you're doing stuff with timing and everything. And your computer's not going to have issues with the editing of it. Okay, so you can see right here, it says missing proxy, and that's because it's still transcoding. That's literally all it is. So once it's done transcoding, like this one here is, we drag that down into our timeline. We can do optimized if we want, which is going to be like this. You can see how it's kind of glitchy and laggy. It still needs to render out. That's part of the reason. You see this here, this is what still needs to render. But if you go to proxy, it's already running smoother and it hasn't even rendered yet. It's running perfectly fine, no issues at all. So then when you start editing and making adjustments to it, it's still going to run perfectly smooth. That's why you use proxy files. So what happens is I take this, I set it on proxy only. I will go and I will edit my entire thing, my entire video, whatever I'm doing. I'll edit the whole thing. And then once you're done editing it, all you do is go back to optimized original and you have the render here. So then you let the whole thing render out. Your whole video, once it's all rendered out, all those dots are gone. It'll take a few minutes. Once that's all gone, then everything is the highest quality. So then when you decide you're ready to export your video, you know it's at the highest quality and you are good to go and you don't ever have to adjust or screw around with the files ever again. So one other thing you can do if you didn't check the proxy media when you uploaded it, let's say you did not create the proxy file when you uploaded it from your SD card, you can go back and select whatever clips you need to and then go up here to File, you can go to Transcode Media, and then you can create, since I already have the proxy file and the optimized file, it's not letting me click the option, but if you don't, you can click and create that file into a proxy media file or optimize if you did do either or. So even if you've already uploaded your clips, let's say you have a bunch already on your editing software and you just want to go back and create proxies of them, you can go back and create the proxy files by just selecting the clips that you want and then going up to Transcode Media and checking Create Proxy Media, and then you press OK, and then it will do the same process. It will transcode that into proxy, and then you are all good to go. And then the next thing you want to do is after you are done, so let's say you're completely done with your entire edit. I will show you an example real quick here. I have a project here that I'm working on. So when you're completely done, so I had already exported this, I created this whole video and exported the whole thing. When you're done with it, because now that you've created an optimized file, you have the original file and a proxy file, it's going to create and add a ton more into your storage, so it's going to eat up hard drive space. So what you want to do when you are done is you would go in to File, go down to Delete Generated Clip Files, and you can delete all the optimized media and the proxy media from that whole file. So everything in that section that you have selected, it will delete all the optimized and the proxy media files. Now you can always go back and you can create those files again if you need to use it for another project. But by deleting both of those, it gets rid of both of those files and then you only have the original left, and so it will clear up so much space on your hard drive. It's insane how much space it does take up, but once you delete those, you go from like, you know, a couple of 100 gigabytes of footage down to basically nothing. So make sure you go in and delete both of those, and then it will save you a ton of space, and you can always go back and create those again if you need to use a certain clip for an edit that you are doing. Another way you can also do this is you can go into your files. You could go to your hard drive that you're using, or if you're doing it on the internal hard drive, that's fine. I always use an external hard drive. And then you could go into here, which is your Final Cut proxy media, or your optimized, and then you have your original. So you could go into that, and then you could select which ones you want to delete. So if you have all the footage from one day and you know you're done with it for now, you can go in and just delete that whole thing, and then you would be good to go. It would be completely gone there. And again, saves you a ton of space, because all of these files now would be gone if you don't need them. All of these files would be gone if you don't need them, and then you just keep the original ones, and it's going to save you a ton of space. I have a bunch of the originals still from a lot of stuff I've shot, but since I delete all the proxies and the optimized for the stuff I don't need, and I can go back and recreate it later if I need to, saves a ton of space on your hard drives, and you can always go back and fix it later. Alright, so that is how you create a proxy file and how you edit using proxies. Makes editing way easier, especially if your computer's not a crazy good editing computer. I definitely use it. I use it all the time. It makes a world of a difference and makes editing go so much faster and smoother. The only other thing that I would suggest getting is an external SSD hard drive. And that's only because they're a lot faster than your standard disk drive. And you can edit off of it. Instead of using the internal drive on your computer, you can edit off of the faster hard drive, and it takes a lot less work on your computer, so it doesn't stress your computer out. This is the Samsung T5. It's a really good hard drive. I think this one's 1 terabyte, and I basically never have any issues with filling it. After I'm done doing my edit, I delete my optimized media and my proxy media, and I have a ton of space left. They also make a T7, which is a little bit faster. The T5 works just fine, but if you want to go for a little bit faster one, go with the T7. Really good option for a good external SSD drive. Hope you got some good information that's going to help you edit your hunts better. I promise you it will make a world of a difference, and you will enjoy editing a lot more when you're editing with Proxy Files. My name is Michael Osman. Until next time.